Long ago, in a time oh so troubled, was a world we would rather forget, but it must be known so it's never repeated, of when animals were put to the test. It began with a thirst for new knowledge, as so many of these things often do, though we didn't expect as curiosity progressed calls to test these discoveries would too. How could we know what would be safe for consumption, if the compounds would sting in our eyes, if our children could safely consume them, and dark plans we began to devise? We couldn't know if the results would be accurate, as the experimenters conjured up plans. Without a thought for consent or consideration, they gathered up creatures from all over the land. These were guinea pigs, fish, mice and rabbits. They were rats, cats and hamsters and hogs. Any being that was there, from the birds of the air all the way to the monkeys and dogs. And these servants were locked in their servitude, forced to exist without respite or rest, living in such a fear every week, month and year as they faced unimaginable tests. They were bound in metallic contraptions where their captors observed them with charts, under halogen lights for their unending nights with their faces pressed up to the glass. And we shaved them and doused them in chemicals and ignored all their cries out in pain. They were bred for disease and destruction, all for industry, profit and gain. We believed we had dominion over animals. We rationalized it as our divine right. But for many, the harrowing horror was only possible when far from our sight. And we saw a rise to an age of commodities, of detergents to clean up the house, so countless furry friends met their nightmarish end. The results don't translate between human and mouse. There were some who were outraged and angry, and they took their chance to protest and to shout. They'd expose this demonstrable cruelty, and occasionally the footage leaked out. And when we saw the great price of our products, we were compelled by compassion and love, so we lobbied to persuade politicians, and mammoth movements began to rise up. But still so many chose to languish in ignorance, unconvinced that beings should be protected, even when studies undermined the whole enterprise and proved most of the results ineffective. That public opinion is a force to be reckoned with, and despite all who had covered their eyes, soon the activists started working with artists and together began turning the tide. They found words to describe the unspeakable. They found pictures to illustrate the unseen. And as more woke up to this torment, they called for an end to the great misery. For the sake of a tablet or deodorant, for the sake of lipstick or shampoo, all the suffering was now in the open, and we determined this could not continue. Until the day animal testing was defeated, and the very last facility closed, and the creatures were returned to their freedom, and the inflictors left to answer their souls. Now it remains as a stain on our memory, in old stories that we wish to forget, though we don't, so it's never repeated. It's the tale we call put to the test.